All right, Sean, thanks so much for being a guest on Wicked Smart Golf, man. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks, man. Doing a home and home here after having
Hey,
you on my podcast a couple weeks ago.
yeah, I was gonna say, man, we had to. I mean, first off, you're from the town, so as I teased in the intro, you're from the town, so I already liked you. And then you're a golfer, you're a writer, you're getting into tournaments. We had way too much in common not to bring you on, and really appreciate you having me on your guys' show. I really enjoyed the questions you asked, and thought we had a lot of fun, and hopefully we'll do it today.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about whatever comes up, and looking forward to talking golf and writing and all the struggles that come with both of those things.
That's actually probably a pretty good place to start because there's a lot of failure in both. I'm getting ready to publish my next book, and I go through these spurts of this is the best book ever written to this is the worst book ever written, and I'm like, wow, does that feel like golf or not? You just have those days where you're like, I'm literally can't miss the center of the face, and then the next day you're like, why do I play this game? So I'm sure you can probably relate. But what even got you into golf writing and how you're able to have this really cool business, and we'll get more into it here in a bit. But where did this all start for you?
So I was always like I was an English major in college and ended up going straight from college into teaching. So I was a fourth grade teacher. So I just entered at my maturity level as a 23-year-old, and did that for 13 years, taught fourth grade, and then I taught sixth grade for a couple years. And always like even while I was teaching, had a blog and was writing for in college. I wrote for the local small little newspaper close to where I grew up. I would call high school coaches on a Monday night while I was in college, and my buddies were having a good time and just trying to get like volleyball scores and and stuff like that from these coaches who didn't really want to be on the phone with a college kid talking about their stuff on a Monday night either, which then I could relate to as a teacher later on. Worked for the college newspaper and all that kind of stuff. So I was always writing. Um, Even like when my kids were at PE, I worked for Celtics101.com, and I would smash together an article about Rajon Rondo and what's going on with the Celtics in the 2010s. So always I was just always writing. I taught English in sixth grade, so it started to kind of mesh, and then I left teaching and knew I wanted to try to write, and everyone kind of thought I was nuts. I still think most people probably think I am because it is a hard thing to make money doing or to, get stuck in doing. And just kind of started writing. I started a new website when I left teaching called Stay Home Husband. The joke was like, I'm going to be home for a year trying to write. I might as well kind of take some of that and turn it into a story or a newsletter. So I had a newsletter every Friday. I'd send out like, here's what I did this week. Here's the stuff that I ate. Here's the stuff that I did because I have time to do it. And then over time, it kind of turned into a golf newsletter and me writing more about golf and what I was doing in golf. And then I decided I was going to try to play every course in Massachusetts. So it's not where I thought I would be if you told me in 2019 as I left that campus for the last time, like you're going to be writing about golf and trying to play every course in Massachusetts and getting paid to do it. And that's not what I thought I would be doing. So that's a
That's
somewhat of a long story, but that's how it
No,
all
no,
kind of came to
that's an
be.
awesome story. That's literally so cool. I mean, I talk a lot about just trying to take the leap, whether it's getting into your first tournament, trying a side hustle, maybe quitting your job, like just trying to do stuff so that way you just don't really know how it's going to end up. It's the same thing with me. Like I'm writing. Pete had me write an article for what it's like quitting your job to build a golf business and doing stuff. And I was putting the finishing touches on it this morning, and I was just laughing because I'm like, man, if you'd have told me when I quit my job that we'd be here having this conversation, I'd be like, no way. But you just never really know what can happen, and that's why I hope people think about that with golf too. Like you never know what can happen. Like you could get really good. You might go to a new course and get paired with somebody and have a relationship that could change your life or a business connection. Like you just never really know what can happen. Like you got to take some of those leaps. Sounds like it's worked out obviously for you. It's a
Yeah.
very cool thing that you have going right now. When you
If I
like
if
look,
I could just
yeah,
interject about Pete, because you mentioned Pete and amateurgolf.com and like taking a chance.
yeah,
Um, though I like that was a big part for me. We talked about it before we hit record, but like the golf writing piece came also because I was writing for myself and no one
Hmm.
was really reading it. And then I reached out to Pete because I was going to Nantucket for the US Mid Am I was gonna caddy for a guy I found through another really crazy connection. I was writing for the Miami Valley Golf Association in Ohio, and I was just doing a piece about like here are the four players from Ohio, from this section of Ohio, who are going to be on Nantucket for the US Mid Am. And one of them on the phone was like, "Do you know anyone who can caddy for me?" And I was like, I'd be happy to caddy for you. That would be great. I could write about it. And then I reached out to Pete and said, "Hey, I'm looping. I'm going to be there. I'm sure you're not paying anyone to go to Nantucket in September because it's not an easy place to get to and it's kind of expensive. Even the
Hmm.
golfers had a hard time getting off the
Yeah.
island, like
I
when
heard
they
about
lost
that
their
actually.
matches.
Yeah,
Holy cow.
I knew about some guys that were in there from Arizona, and it seemed like a real pain just to get there and not cheap.
Yeah, and not cheap at all. It's a pricey place, kind of a fancy town. So
Yeah.
that's another piece of like just taking a little bit of a chance and sending an email and hopping on the phone with Pete. And he was like, "Yeah, let's just have you write." And now that's kind of part of what I've been doing, almost every day now, just either consuming amateur golf and thinking about stories and having
Hmm.
people on podcasts like you. So, anyways, that's just sorry to interrupt, but
No,
that was another thing. You
no, that
mentioned
was
Pete, and that's
perfect.
another
Yeah,
important
no, that was
piece.
like fantastic. What was that like caddying, by the way, at the mid am? I mean, that's for those people that don't know. Mid am is 25 and older. Every golfer over 25 wants to get there because if you win, you get to go to the Masters and you
Yes.
have a special invitation there. But I've been, I think, one shot away from a playoffs, the closest I've been, which I'm still pissed off because I remember that round vividly. But I think that was actually 2023. I want to say I was there, but
Okay.
or trying. So I mean, I always try. Just I haven't made it yet. But what was it like? Because I've heard nothing but good things about USGA events. Obviously, everyone feels the almost nostalgia, the history. What was it like being on the grounds and actually caddying at such a big event?
It was really cool. USJ does it right no matter what championship it is. I was at the women's mid am because it was down the street at Brayburn this
Hmm.
September, which is a private golf course near Boston. That's awesome. Like every time you're there, there's just that little bit of extra touch of class. Caddying, the you've got your bibs and you've got the red
So
flags
had
and
you
the
ever
striped
caddied before, or was
flags.
this all first time?
I had caddied before. Yeah, I caddied
Okay.
for buddies in the qualifiers and
Hmm.
kind of local stuff around here, but never caddied for someone that like I had never met before.
Yeah.
As far as a chance, I caddied at the country club for half of a summer when I was a freshman in college,
Nice.
which was just so I could play the golf course on Mondays, which is cool. But
Yeah.
like caddying for a competitive guy, you meet an hour before the tee time, and you're like, all right, let's go see what we can do. We started the round. It took us about 11 hours to play that first round because of fog.
Oh
So there
my
was
God.
massive fog delays. We played like a hole and then we sat on the second tee box for 40 minutes. Um, and then they called us in and we sat around for a couple hours. We went back out. We played like three more holes. We got called back in. I think we played like 4 or 5 holes at a time in these little chunks and we finished just at, at just at just as it got dark. And then
Ugh.
the next day we played 2 holes and we teed off at like 7:15 that night because they had to get because the waves. So we were the early late. So then we teed off Tuesday night at 7:30, played 2 holes, and then we were back on the golf course before the sun came up Wednesday morning to finish that round. It was fun. We played with Doug Clapp was in our group, who was an amateur uh, from Cape Cod out here who qualified and he played in the US Senior Open that year. He's a very, very good player, just won the
Nice.
Mass Senior Am. And then Bettinardi, the Bettinardi family, was the third
Mm.
guy in our group.
Wow.
So it was like a fun group, and all three of them were kind of in the hunt to make the cut coming down the last like four or
Hmm.
five holes. So they put us on the clock,
Ugh.
accidentally put us on the clock because we were the second group to tee off of our tee when we restarted
Uh-huh.
Wednesday morning, and they had our tee time as 7:30. We really teed off at 7:45, and they're like, "You guys are 15 minutes behind." So we were like running to tee boxes trying to finish some of these holes, and then we finished, and they were like, "Oh, sorry, we actually made a mistake." So that was an experience. But the USGA, other than that little
Yeah.
snafu, it's just a really cool experience. Stuart Hagestad won. You're like walking around and you
Hmm.
see some of these guys who are like so good at golf, and are still amateurs. Like
Yeah.
that level of golf is still outstanding. Even at a US mid am, they're awesome golfers.
It's terrifying how good amateurs are, and I mean, they're still full-time jobs usually or business, and it's like that's really hard to do. And then you see the guys in the mini tour, like there's a mini tour event down the street from me a couple weeks ago. 19 under for 3 days, won it. Guy shot 61 the last day to win it. I mean, the course is not a pitch and putt. And I'm like, and he got $10,000 and the entry fee was 1,500. And I'm not discounting that. I'm just like, that's crazy to think you shoot 61 and you're
I
like,
know.
are barely making any money. Like, it's just insane how good golf is at amateurs, mini tours, Corn Ferry. I mean, it just blows my mind. So I'm glad you got to see that though, like up close and personal. Did you notice anything about their games or like anything you feel like, wow, I'm surprised they hit it here or this distance? Or did you find like there was just anything seeing high level golf that close for a couple days?
The guy I caddied for hit the ball so incredibly far, and he was, I'm 5'11". He was shorter than me. He was
Hmm.
smaller than the like Doug Clapp is a big guy. He's in his 50s. And he was just pounding it by both of them to the point where it was like they were also like, holy, you hit the ball so far. So he hit the ball very far, um, which was kind of which was kind of fun to watch
Hmm.
someone do. And they all three of them were like very consistent, but still that whole idea of like building a round of golf
Hmm.
is still hard at that level where you're trying to shoot a score. The players around you are also very good. Then the last thing I noticed that I got to go to the US Am at Ridgewood as well. If you go to any of these events that are quiet, like not well attended, the sound the golf ball makes throughout the entire golf course, you can just stand there and every shot is hit solid.
Hmm.
Everything is almost, I don't want to say flush because they would tell you like they don't hit everything perfect, but it just the ball sounds different
Yeah.
360 degrees around you as you're just standing and listening to golf shots.
Yeah, there's nothing like it. We played in a two-man event this last weekend, and it wasn't quite that good, but it was all just players in the tournament warming up, and you could just hear it. It just sounds good. You're like, oh yeah, it's just a rewarding feeling. I was contributing a few. I still got some thin, but but it is a good sound. It does sound different. What did they look at the leaderboard? Were they constantly like looking on the app, or were they focused? Because some people like to look at it, some people don't.
So we looked with two holes left,
Okay.
and we got to the point where he needed two birdies. So we were standing on the ninth fairway. He needed a hole out for eagle. He had a wedge in his hand, and like we knew what he had to do.
Hmm.
He didn't. But like that was kind of fun, and he did not want to know up until that
Yeah.
point where he stood. He played a good like middle nine to give himself a chance.
Hmm.
And yeah, so we didn't look. I got the sense that the other two guys didn't look either, but we did not talk about it in the group.
Yeah.
As far as like, because they were all hovering around the same score. So if one person mentioned it, I think it would have thrown everything off. So we just kind of amongst ourselves were like, we're not going to look at it. And the other two guys were the same, like you're pitching a perfect game. You just don't bring it up.
Yeah. I was gonna
But it
say
isn't.
yeah. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say it is an interesting dynamic when you're
Hmm.
in a qualifier like that and everyone's kind of playing the same and you're playing okay and you feel like maybe I can get in, but you don't want to step on other people's toes, and that it's different when like one guy is clearly playing well enough to be in
Yeah.
there and the other two have kind of like fallen back. But with
Uh-huh.
all three of us, it was an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, that's interesting. I used to look a lot and then I just stopped because I had a guest on my show and he used to play on the PGA Tour and he was talking about Kenny Perry was going to win the Masters and he told his caddy, finally looked at the leaderboard after 16, told his caddy, hey man, let's go par par, we win this thing. Goes bogey bogey, loses in a playoff. And he just, it's just so easy to go away from your process. And then you get into that results and trying to steer it and guide it and want to make it versus just, hitting a good putt. And Scott Fawcett also has been on the show a bunch and talked about that too. Like trying to aim at the flags doesn't guarantee you're going to just do it all of a sudden. So it can lead to you just don't really know what the rest of the field might do. So it might change too. So it's tough. I know some guys can't not look at it, but I always recommend my mental coaching students to just stay away, stick to your game. Hopefully it works out, but it's easier said than done, especially in a big event like that.
Yeah, there's something about also. I had a crazy experience in a Mass Am qualifier, but like just having all the reps feel like they're under pressure, but
Hmm.
not adding extra pressure to like what you feel like you have to do. I played a Mass Am qualifier in 2021. We played 17 holes. We were walking to the 18th hole or the ninth hole. We started on 10, and I was two over. I was playing pretty nice. I was playing well.
Hmm.
I made two birdies early in the round and got that like sweaty palm feeling like, oh, this is pretty good. And then I just kind of leaked like a couple bogeys, leaked it out.
It's golf, yeah.
Lightning, yeah, and it was like there was lightning coming, and I was thinking like we just have to finish. I cannot. And they called us off the golf course for 90 minutes.
God. And you had one hole left?
I had one hole left, and in the back of my mind, I thought like I think two is safe and three is probably not safe. But I didn't look at this. I sat around for 90 minutes, just didn't look, barely open my phone because I
Hmm.
knew I'd have text messages from buddies following live scoring, which is
Yep.
like another scourge of competitive golf these days that maybe we could talk about.
Totally. Yep.
Or not scourge, but it can make things tough when other people can watch you and you know other people are
Yeah.
watching you. Um, Ended up making a bogey, but I had like a 4 footer for bogey that in the back of my mind, I thought like, well, if I if I didn't know, if I knew what this was for and I was already kind of out and I was going to be an alternate, like my mind would have been different. That's a putt I think a lot about when I'm
Hmm.
playing other rounds now because it was a 5 footer, like a slider for bogey that I just in my own mind thought like I have to make this putt
Hmm.
because I know 4 over is not in and like doubling the last hole is would be kind of catastrophic.
Yeah.
So like sometimes just getting those reps without your mind giving yourself the excuse of like, well, this doesn't really matter anymore.
Hmm.
I think is also important. Thinking
I
about
think
looking at scores.
Yeah, I think that's a really good lesson too for everyone listening. Like, have whether it's a $5 match and you win on the 18th hole, or it's you do get in your first qualifier and you make a really good putt or hit a good drive on the first tee. Like, just use that for the future. I'm sure when you're standing over some putts that are 4 or 5 feet, the little slider, you're like, oh, I've made this before, and you like can channel that energy because a lot of times you just need a little confidence boost, right? Like I remember Tiger talking about before he had a big putt to win. It was a tough putt, but he made himself laugh. He said, "My mom could make this putt." Like that's something he just so
Yeah.
you have to like kind of psych yourself up or take it down a notch like he did in that moment. It's amazing the little tricks you can play during the round. What has your tournament golf experience been like? I know you cover it a lot. You write about it. You go to events. What's your journey been like? You said a 3.7 right now.
Yeah.
Statistically, top 10% of amateur golfers. So nice job there. I
Well,
know you
thank
want to
you.
keep getting better and getting into more tournaments. But a lot of people listening to the show, haven't been into tournaments yet. Maybe getting into some men's club. Like, what's your just overall take on tournament golf? How does it differ than normal? And just kind of your first impressions on it.
I've played competitive golf like my whole life. I played junior stuff as a 11, 12, 13-year old. I played in high school. I played in college. I've never really like sometimes I think people who compete in college, whatever it is, like take a little break. I think if I remember correctly, I probably took like a small break after college. I don't know if I had the time to qualify for stuff
Hmm.
even just as a teacher. A lot of the summer qualifying stuff comes in the spring, and like taking a day off from teaching to go play golf didn't really add up
I
when you
like that plan. I don't.
two vacation days at the end of the year too. Like like May is not a great time to take a day off, or June.
That's fair.
So I didn't play a bunch, and then I started to just get a little older and realize like I could take a day off to try to qualify for Mass Am. But I like as far as I find it completely different. I find stroke play versus match play. I played match play in high school was our format, and I
Hmm.
was way more comfortable than when I got to college and played stroke play. Like
Yeah.
I was not a good college golfer. I walked onto the team. I was never really planned on playing competitive golf in
We
college. I
have
wanted
so
to
much in
play. I
common.
want.
It makes me laugh. I was such a bad college golfer. I walked
I
on.
wanted to play. I wanted to play soccer. That was kind of my goal senior year in high school, and had a couple like Division 3 schools that I had an eye on that I wanted to play. They didn't really have an eye on me, and then I went to Holy Cross, which is a Division 1 school, and I knew I couldn't play soccer there. Like I had enough self awareness. I was not good enough to play there, so I just tried out for the golf team,
Hmm.
and we were not terribly good, and I made it and played in a bunch of tournaments. Like I finished dead last in the Patriot League Championship as a junior, completely embarrassing. Like and I've written about it. Like that's probably my low competitive point was just 3 rounds at Colgate's golf course, getting my butt kicked in horrible weather, rain and sleet, and
Oh.
Could barely break. I don't know if I might have broken 90 once, like just totally awful. So I like match play versus stroke play. I love match play. I've grown to enjoy playing stroke play events just because it's all you get to really play in.
Hmm.
If you want to compete, even just to get into a match play, you have to
Yeah.
play stroke play. Like
Right.
you're playing stroke play to prove yourself. Um, so I have grown to like it. Like I like I said, I try to play in as many qualifiers as I can, which is basically the Mass Sam, the Mass Mid Am, the Mass Pub Links because I am not a member at a private club. And then I play like couple four balls during the summer at a couple places that just
Hmm.
are kind of on the calendar and that I really like that are pretty competitive. One especially at Concord Country Club is like there's some good golfers that are like former Mass Am champs and a couple guys who are pros, and it's a good.
Hmm.
And me and my buddy just are happy to make the cut and play the third round. Like that's
Yeah.
we're there, just happy to play one of our favorite golf courses. Um, yeah, so I've had my lows, and then qualifying this year for the Mass Pub Links was kind of a thrill. It was the first Mass Golf Championship I qualified for, so to be able to play in that as a kid who grew up playing public golf.
Hmm.
My my gin handicap is kept at Maynard Country Club where I was a junior member. It was, $180 and I played every day there and just stole their money as far as that membership went. And like what a cool thing to make the pub links, have them say my name from Maynard Golf Club now was a cool highlight of 2024.
Yeah.
Did not play well, did not represent the club terribly well, but that's a different story.
It's
But
it's
also
still
like the
golf.
next level, I leveled up. I
Yeah.
felt like I got to like a new level of because qualifiers are pretty, if you don't play well, there's a lot of guys at qualifiers who don't play well, or it's just one of those days. But
But it's
then
just,
you get to
one
then you
day
get to the place where
qualifiers are
like
tough, It's just
really,
like
really
you don't know
tough.
anything can happen on one. You could have the best warm up and then just have like a double bogey and you're just out of it. It feels like, sometimes. So
Yeah.
yeah, one day qualifiers are tough. Did you do anything different that year that you qualified, or did you feel like you just had your game, or were you heading good into the competition? Because I know one day of qualifiers are a big part of tournament golf, like you said, especially it sounds like in Mass, we don't have that quite as much here, but what's that like? Do you try and have like a routine, or what's your kind of pre-round ritual?
So I played a practice round at the course I qualified at. The course was called Cyprian Keys. It is an incredibly tight, narrow target golfy marsh, like a lot of marshland, and
Mm.
you got to keep your ball on a string. So I went and played it like a couple weeks before. I'd played it years ago, and if you mention that golf course to anyone around here who's played it, they're always like, "Oh man, that place is just a tough place to hit 18 cups." So I went and played it. I saw it. I played okay. Um, Practice rounds are also interesting. Like I tried to just play it and I finished birdie, birdie, birdie to finish the round. And like that helped because I actually managed to finish birdie, birdie in the qualifier, the actual qualifier, after
Nice.
doubling the 15th hole, which
Oof.
had it was one of those like, all right, you got to buckle down. I made a bad double, made a bad swing, um, and then finished with birdies on 17 and 18 to get in by a shot.
Mm.
So I think like that part of the practice round, finishing those last few holes, knowing like I played them well 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks
Hmm.
ago, I can do it again. I also was playing with a friend who I played the practice round with. We just were happened to be paired together, which was kind of a comfy
Yeah,
pairing.
that is nice.
A guy I've played a handful of golf with over the last couple of years that I've met since I started playing more golf all over the place, and just
Hmm.
a guy I've met through other friends. So that was super helpful, I think, just having a buddy there who was, partly cheering me on and giving me some help throughout the round. And I also rode a golf cart, which I do not like doing, but it
Okay.
was incredibly hot out that day. And I remember a phone call with another friend of mine who I've played golf. We played in high school together. We were kind of both golf sickos and talk about golf. He's the one who was telling me I should go try to play somewhere to get my handicap down to get
Yeah.
into the Mass Am because I'm point 0.3 strokes above the
Ugh.
qualifying limit right now. And he said it does not like I know you're prideful and you like to walk golf courses and it's a walkable golf course, but he said your goal tomorrow is to qualify. No one is going to ask you when you're at the championship or after you qualify, well, did you walk or ride? Like no one cares, and you're not going to care. It was 105 degree. It was we had a really really hot winter or hot summer. Hopefully we have a hot winter too. Maybe that's
Yeah, hopefully.
I'm cheering for it. We had a really hot summer and it was just one of the hottest days. And I got a cart
Do you at
and
least
it
use a
made
push
a
cart
huge
when you
difference.
walk?
I've started to.
Okay. Because I
Yeah,
mean,
I
come
bought a
on, we're
push
not
cart in
21
August.
anymore. What are we doing,
I
Sean?
know. My back and my shoulder and my my golfer's elbow remind me of that all the time. So,
Seriously though, it's all about energy management. Like I'm just starting to put the outline together for the next book all about tournament golf, and that's the whole thing I say is like I understand that you want to walk, you feel like that, like you're connected with the course and stuff, but like if it's super hot, if it's super hilly, like you're just not going to have as much energy and you're already exhausting so much mental energy in a tournament. If you're losing it physically, it just makes for a really long day and you don't want to be like, God, I'm gassed on 15 and be like, well, that's why I finished bogey and missed it. So it's like
yep.
way to put the pride aside and you
Yeah.
at least found that out. I mean, it's so small, like such a little thing, but like you said, it made a big difference.
Yeah. The other thing I found playing really any round of golf is I don't need to hit golf balls at a range as much anymore. I don't put a premium on like I got to go through the bag. It's nice if I have time to, and I left time at Cyprian Keys on my qualifier. And qualifiers, you should leave time to
Yeah.
loosen up and get a sense of where your golf ball is going that day. But if I'm like short on time, or if I happen to be short on time during qualifier, I would not. I think I would not go and just hit balls and feel rushed.
Mm.
Hitting chip shots and hitting like short little shots around the greens, which is my kind of my weakness as a golfer, and just feeling like I'm hitting the center of the club. That's been my first stop anytime I'm playing around where I have the time to go and practice and get
Yeah.
ready. And then I'll hit balls and then I'll putt and then I'll go play. But even just like putting strokes with an 8 iron and feeling like, all right, I can chip today. I think at
Hmm.
least I'm going to tell myself it might be different on the second hole when I can't chip, but that's another kind of bit of my routine that I've
Yeah.
definitely found and tinkered with over the last couple of years. It helps me anytime I'm playing. Like even if it's just a buddy's round, I'm chipping before I go play. And then like having some stuff to loosen up my creaky old body at 41 years old now. So
I was gonna say, are you over 40 or not yet?
yeah, I'm
Okay,
there.
41. Okay. What made you set off on this quest to play every golf course in Mass? I mean, that's a badass quest that you're on right now. Again, kind of funny because about a year ago I launched AZ Golf Wizard. I haven't really done anything because this brand took off so much, but my goal is to play every course in Arizona and write a blog post
Okay.
about it. And I have probably 40 blog posts up there, and I've played a lot. I don't know if I have the exact number, but I've played a lot of courses here, and then obviously there's like Tucson. I got to do better about getting down there and stuff. But I just was dying when you brought that up because I'm like, of course we have that in common too. Like we're just trying to conquer all golf courses. I think there's a lot more in Mass. It sounds like what's the number?
350 around 350-ish is kind of Mass Golf's official golf courses is 350.
Did
So
you have
9 hole, 18 hole,
okay, so that's everything.
yeah, public
Did,
private.
did you have an epiphany moment where you're like, I want to do that, or is that just on your kind of year break where you put that together?
It it came it came in the fall of 19. So that first lovely bit of time I wasn't teaching and had kind of some flexibility as far as doing work and writing and
Hmm.
being able to like I'm going to go play golf today. I did a couple trips kind of out central and western Mass, played a couple golf courses that people had always said like you should go play. So I went and played a place called Crump and Fox, which is about 2 hours from Boston, one of the better public golf courses in the state. And that was fall of 2019. I had read Tom Coyne's course called Ireland. Um, Both my parents were born and raised in Ireland. I spent almost every summer over there growing up, at least a good chunk of it. And the whole premise of that book is he walks the entire circumference of Ireland on foot, all the roads, and plays every links course along the way. So it's an awesome book. It's kind of this like wild bucket list thing that he
That's
did in his
wild.
20s. Yeah, it's a great book. So he's written a few of these books. And then he wrote a course called America where he wanted to play a US Open site. And then it kind of turned into, I'm going to try to play a golf course in every state.
Mm.
So I was reading some of these books. James Dodson has a book called my range bucket list. He found a list that he had made when he was 12. He was in his like maybe in his 50s or 60s at this point, with all these different golf goals that he had set as a 12-year-old. And he found it digging through his attic. I think maybe after his dad died, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I read the book. And he decided, I'm going to do all these things for my 12, like the 12-year-old me. And I'm going to
That's
go and I'm going to
awesome.
check all these off. It's an awesome book. So I had all these like little, I was reading these books with all these ideas. And so getting out to Crump and Fox and being home in a day and realizing like you can, from Boston, you can get to most places in the state within
Hmm.
2 hours, maybe 2.5, even getting to Cape Cod and the islands. So that's kind of where the idea came. I wiped my slate clean at zero. So anything I had played before June of 2020 did not
Oh,
count.
really?
So yeah, yeah, yeah. So I've
Wow. And
played,
you're at half that?
I'm
You're
at
at one.
142,
Jesus, you've played 142 new courses since, would you say mid
2020.
2020?
Yeah,
Wow.
2020,
I
June of
figured you
2020.
you still got to count. The good news is I'm a weirdo with taking pictures for like everywhere I go, so I did not do that with mine. I mean there's court most of them I played recently, but some were like 10 years ago, but I have like a grainy old iPhone picture of it. So I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I have some images at least for that blog. But man, that's impressive. So
Yeah.
140, what's the breakdown public to private in Mass?
Oh, I have no idea because I'm almost like scared to look at some of those breakdowns just to feel like, oh man, I have so many private courses I need invites to
Yeah,
or
I was gonna
need
say,
to
so do you
finagle
do you
my
just
way
have like a
onto.
good network or from like tournaments or amateur golf? Like where do you or how do you get onto some of these like exclusive clubs?
Yeah, I have. I mean, at this point, I've had people now who know what I'm trying to do who have reached out and helped me get onto some of
Nice.
them. But at the start, I had I grew up in Concord. I went to a prep school in Concord. So I have like a network of friends who are members places
Hmm.
through college golf too. Just like I just have friends who are members at some of these golf courses, and then those friends have friends. And like I got on the country club because I went to the Mass Am final because I'm a sicko when Michael Thorbjornsen, who is now on the PGA Tour, uh, won at Brayburn. Another shout out for Brayburn, and he beat Matt Parziali. It was the first time that two USGA champions were playing in a mass or in a state am final. Like, so I was like, I got to go and watch these guys play. Walking around, and a kid I went to high school and college with, who was a 4 years younger than me, comes up and we start chatting, and I tell him what I'm doing, and he's a member at the country club, and he was like,
Nice.
let's 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 do it. So like 2 months later, I was playing the country club. Just happened to be. I tell people all the time, if you go to some of these events, if you want to play a private golf course, go to an event where you're walking around a private golf course. You might meet somebody, or you might run
Mm.
into somebody who is willing, or you just strike up a conversation. You're already on a golf course. They know you like golf. So that's some of it is networking. And then now I have people through Instagram reach out and say, like, if you ever need to come play this golf course, just let me know. I'm happy to host. So I'm
Nice.
treating it like I'm trying not to, I'm trying to be like a golf vampire. I have to be invited into the house. I'm trying not to beg my way onto golf courses. There's plenty of
Okay.
public golf courses I can go play
Hmm.
when I want to go check a golf course off. So trying to see
So
how far that can get me.
I love it. I mean, that's such a good quest. I'm sure all your friends are jealous of this quest that you're on. I'm sure you bring them along if you can. What's the
Yeah.
process? So you play and then you write a review and then you have Instagram. I know you have your website. Like, how does that all work?
Yeah, I take pictures and video as I'm playing, and that's kind of evolved over time, which is interesting. I like you said, the grainy pictures. I go back and look at the first round I played was at a golf course called Thorny Lee in Brockton. My buddy's a member there, and he invited me out, and I was like, "All right, this is number one. This is the first one I'm gonna do." And I have like 5 pictures with an iPhone 10,
Yep.
and they're horrible. And it's like, okay, well, that's how I did it for the first year or so. And then like even just using Instagram and realizing, oh, Instagram likes video. I should probably start
Mhm.
taking a few little short videos of different spots on the golf course. So, I started taking a little bit of video and photos still with my phone. My phone has like 20,000 photos and it's insane. I've
I
upgraded
fully
my
get it.
phone since then.
Yep.
Yep. And I think I just paid for more storage on Google Photos, like just insane. Um, and then now I have like I got a drone. So now when I go, I'll try to get, if I can get to a place early, and they are nice enough to let me fly my
I
drone,
was gonna say I know
I
nothing about
will.
drones other than all the New Jersey stuff going on right now. Like, what's the rule with? Because like I'll watch flyovers. Like I was going to Torrey Pines a couple years ago, and I hadn't played the North Course in ages. I know the South Course like back of my hand, but I was like, what's the North Course? So I found someone on YouTube did a badass drone thing, So I watched it. I messaged him on Instagram. I was like, thanks, man. That like helped me. It was my practice round. What's the rules on drones and golf courses or anywhere? I literally know nothing about this.
So I typically ask, just I'll either reach out before I go to a place, um, and they'll either say yes or no. So sometimes I just
Can they
have a
say no
club,
though, even
like I
though it's
went,
like kind of is it like the airspace? I don't know. As long as it's not like near an airport, right?
yeah, well, it's not, I think they just sometimes don't. I'm trying to respect if I'm going to a private, like
Well,
Salem
yeah.
Country Club. Yeah, so
Mhm.
Salem Country Club is a private golf course out here. It's awesome. It's one of my favorites in the state. I got to play it in September, and I reached out and they're like, "No, thanks. We don't need you as a guest flying a drone over our property. We already have." And I always offer, I'm happy to share some photos and videos with you or that I
Yeah.
take. I'm not just going to use them all for myself. If you'd like some, like we
Mhm.
already have a drone program, so we're fine. And I just respect that. That's fine.
Yeah.
And then some places are like, yeah, that's great. One place I played before I kind of got in the mode of asking, there was a school parking lot next to the golf course. So I just went to the school parking lot before, flew my drone, like got it high enough up where I was just getting like kind of high level pictures. I didn't do any
Yeah.
flyovers, but most courses are pretty open to it.
Hmm.
At this point, I think they've probably been asked by a bunch of people and they like getting a few photos and videos. So I have
Yeah.
a drone. Um, that's usually before or after the round, depending on. I try to fly it during, and it's just like a whole other.
Yeah.
It
Too
gets
much
so
to
many
think
things
about.
going on. Yeah,
Right.
right. And then I also have a little like GoPro kind. It's a DJI makes this cool pocket, that takes really good video. So I've started kind of using that, and I can stick it into my push cart, so it's got just can stand, and I can get like a couple more cool shots of like guys I'm playing with
Hmm.
while we're putting out on a green. You just get a little bit more sense of what the golf course looks like, and I can started posting stuff on YouTube a little bit more because I have actual good video that I can
Hmm.
use for a 5 to 20 minute video about a golf course or a few golf courses. So yeah, it's definitely evolved.
Nice.
And then finding
And
the balance between like I'm trying to shoot a score, I'm trying to take
yeah.
video, I'm trying to like remember the golf course. And then I get home and I usually write. I'll try to write something. Pictures help. Just like, and I've got a weird brain where I can remember most of my round in the golf course while I'm
Golf
playing it.
sicko 101 right there. I understand
Yeah,
that fully.
yeah. My usually my first test when I call it the car test is when I get in the car and I turn my radio off and I just try to go through the round in my head and like, does it pass the car test? Do I need
Hmm.
to stop and remind myself or look at the scorecard when I get home because holes 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 are kind of like muddled in my brain?
Yeah. Yep.
That's always a good measurement of how, at least part of how good a golf course is for what I'm
Hmm.
trying to do.
I like that, man. That's cool. What are we gonna do when we celebrate? Are we gonna when like you get every one? Do you think there's a timeline on it? Do you have a goal? What's that like?
In my mind, I figured it would take me like 8 to 10 years.
Okay.
Just I'm at 142 and there's 350, and I've been doing it for 4.5 summers.
Yeah.
So you double that, that's 280. I'm getting pretty close. They're getting farther away. Like there's definitely courses close to home. I'm just not playing yet because you got to save a few every summer to just to like I'm gonna go down the road or
Hmm.
20 minutes down the road. I don't need a slew of Western and Central Mass golf courses to play, the last couple of years and just been just being a road
Right.
warrior.
Yeah.
But we'll see. There might be a window of time where I get more time to do it because it gets enough steam, where I have I'm either being sponsored to do it or there's like
I was gonna say, I
some
feel
sort
like
of,
there could be some good opportunities here. I feel like the drone stuff, like that stuff's not cheap to people, have people do that. So if you could do that for like the, flyovers, it's nice when courses have that because if you can't get a practice round in, or if you just want to, do a little homework the night before, just kind of see, like that'd be cool. And I feel like
yeah.
somebody in Mass would be was get Duncan on it, get Gillette. Come on, man, we got to get
I
everybody. I feel like this could be a statewide movement out here.
Yeah, I'm jealous of the guys like Pat Koenig who played, what did he broke the record for most courses played in a year. Last year
Mm.
he played like 500 something.
That
Had
doesn't
a
even sound fun
was
to
in a
me.
van.
That's
No, it looked like a grind.
yeah,
But he just took the whole year, but he's a photographer as well, and like I think he just turned
gotcha.
it into a whole project. But he broke the Guinness Book of World Record for most rounds of
That's
golf played at different, I think at different golf courses.
wow.
Um, so yeah, there's a lot of people doing cool stuff. There's a guy out in England who played every links course on
Mm,
the in Great Britain. Um, Links on the Road is his website, and he's kind of
nice.
managed to get a job in golf course architecture now
Wow.
after doing it. So yeah,
That's cool.
there's some cool stuff, but I think like 8 to 10 years is what my window is. I try not to think too much about it, but
Well, we're rooting for you. Where's the best place so everyone should follow that journey at?
so Bay State underscore golf on Instagram is where I post photos and videos and lists, and in the winter, just kind of whatever I can compile of from what I've done, which is always that's probably like the best place. And now I also am trying to kind of create a little collection of it's hard. Instagram is hard as far as like you can't catalog stuff there. So I have a website called baystategolf.com, which has a bunch of stuff, and I'm slowly in the process of like trying to move it over to. I have a newsletter that I send out every Friday, and
Nice.
that's at Beehive. So baystategolf.beehive.com is where I do like if you want to sign up for my newsletter.
Yeah.
I send it out for free every
We got a
Friday.
lot of
But
bus.
so I'm
We got a
like,
lot of Bostonian fans here, so I'll make sure send everything over, so we'll link to it. Because yeah, I always get
yeah, for
guys reaching
sure.
out, be like, "Hey, I'm from Boston, even though you're not from there. I really like your name, really like the show. So I know we have an audience out there, and I'm sure that they will want to follow you if they're not already, because it's a
Yeah,
cool quest. So,
yeah.
man, inspiring stuff. But for my last question, I'm just curious. You're a single digit handicap. I know you like to give yourself some shit about not being good enough yet, but again, 3.7 is really, really good. What would you say to someone that's shooting in the mid 80s and wants to get down in the 70s or get to that single digit handicap? What's maybe one or two things you found that have helped?
I think the I play with a lot of golfers like that. Got buddies who, especially since 2020, have gotten into the sport. So I see
Mm,
a lot of golfers who are in that like mid 80s. Sometimes they're sneaking up on breaking 80 that one day, and they get like they they get really anxious about it.
yeah.
Is kind of the first part. Um, so maybe the first thing this is going to be two parts here, but I think the first thing, like mentally wise, just like trying to separate yourself from your score in whatever way you can. Um, because that's hard. I know it's hard, but either whether it's like you're writing your score down or you have something that keeps your score without you knowing really what your
Hmm.
score is, whether I use Arcos, which I like a lot. And so like that might be one thing. And then I feel like getting off the tee is like the winning. I struggle around the greens. Like that's where my game really suffers and where I give my shots away and whatever else. But for most people, like just keeping the ball in play, whatever that means for you, I think is so vitally important. And it gets overlooked, the whole drive for show, putt for dough. And I think a lot of us think backwards through holes, and we get tied up in like the 4 foot, 5 footer we missed. I've started to equate it to like baseball with a closer.
Mm,
So like you could have Mariano Rivera in the bullpen. I'm gonna use I'm a Red Sox guy. I mean, you can have Jonathan Papelbon in the in the bullpen. He is useless if your starting pitchers are giving up 12 runs a game and your
mm,
offense can't generate it. If it's 12-4 at the end in the ninth inning, eighth inning, like Jonathan Papelbon is on ice. He is not getting to pitch. It's the same thing with your putter and your wedges. If you have Pedro starting your rounds or just someone, John Lackey even, I'll go deep. It's someone who can manage a game and like get you to the bullpen, you will be better.
mm.
Um, so your putter is like Jonathan Papelbon. You need a good starter and maybe a middle reliever. But if your starter's giving up home runs in the first inning
Yeah.
because you're hitting the ball all over the place, golf gets really, really hard.
Couldn't agree more, man. That's a big, big thing in the new book is just driver, wedge, putter. Like those are the three we really need to break 80 consistently. Stop just randomly hitting long irons and mid irons and just like figure out how to hit driver better. Love it, man.
Yeah.
It's been a great talk with you. I appreciate you having me on Amateur Golf and love what you're doing with your quest to conquer everything in
Thank you.
mass and definitely wicked smart approved. So thanks again for being here.
Yeah. Thank you.